If you're wondering why Australia keeps changing Prime Minister every couple of years over the last decade or so, look no further than climate change denial. That has become a huge political force in Australia and a lot of other countries too. Climate change skepticism was around in the 80s and 90s. It became denial, it became hardcore denial in Australia just after the Black Saturday firestorms, which killed 173 people. And that's why I call these people fake Christians. They don't actually care about people who die in natural disasters. They could not care less about them. And the truth is that John Howard, when John Howard was Prime Minister of Australia, everyone looks back and says he's political royalty. I look back and think he's the one who could have done something on climate change. He was there at the time where it was the right time to start taking meaningful action on climate change if you wanted to prevent runaway, catastrophic, disastrous climate change that is now underway. Regardless of what these propaganda merchants of the far right, these fake Christians who do not care about the victims of natural disasters, regardless of what they say, rapid climate change is underway. A lot of people are going to die, and if you want to believe in a conspiracy about governments wanting to reduce the population of the planet, look no further than the far Christian right, the fake Christians, the far right conservatives who are putting forward climate change denial, because that's what's going to kill the most people. Listen to their rubbish. Listen to it.
We don't know if Scott Morrison will do that or not. Andrew Laming was saying that no, get rid of him, and there's a lot of people saying, oh no, blaming him for the change of government, which is strange. Your thoughts on the future of Tony Abbott?
I think it's an absolute no-brainer, and my hunch was, before I read this media speculation, my hunch was that Tony Abbott, of course, with Scott Morrison, of course, would let him back in. I mean, there are millions of people across this country who hold Tony Abbott in a very high regard. So, this is going to be a tight election. The betting markets now, if you put $1 on Labor to win the next election, you're only going to get $1.20 back.
Yeah.
Okay? You put $1 on the Liberal Party, you're going to get $4.40 back. Now, I think it will tighten, but we need everything we've got. And Tony Abbott is... there is millions of people out there who have him in high regard. I'm pretty sure, look, I could be wrong, but it would only be spite why they would not bring Tony back up.
Well, the other thing it could be is that you wind up in a situation where you've only got a certain number of cabinet positions available. Yeah. There's a strong feeling you have to reward those who helped you to get there.
Well, that's true, because all these deals have been done so in Canada, where it's all transparent and out in the open, all this stuff's been happening in Canberra behind closed doors. So there's been all these phone calls and all this arm twisting, and a lot of it would have been, a hell of a lot would have been is, I will vote for you if I get X portfolio.
Okay, you've spoken about Canada a couple of times. Let's just have a quick listen to Doug Ford, the recent Premier of Ontario. Won an election very single-mindedly going against climate change. Let's have a listen to Doug Ford.
I want to confirm that in Ontario, the carbon taxes days are numbered. In fact, upon the swearing in of my new cabinet, at the top of our agenda, the very first item will be to pass an order to cancel the Liberal cap-and-trade carbon tax. As of June the 29th, the cap-and-trade, the carbon tax, they're gone, they're done.
So this bloke wins virtually in a landslide. He took it hard, and there was no mistaking what he was talking about there. There was no kind of fudging, let's lower emissions and lower prices and do this and construct this lunatic thing.
Yes.
It was, we're getting out of the thing.
Yes.
In the Brazilian president, I can't pronounce his name off the top of my head, but the candidate, he's the front runner to be the next Brazilian president. He said climate change is all rubbish, we're pulling out of the Paris Agreement. The
alternative for Germany.
Ross detailed how the alternative party
largest opposition party, they say, gone,
it's getting out of here. Around the world, we're seeing, and then you see countries like China which just laugh at the entire concept of Paris, and other countries which quite rightly see it as a milk cow like Pakistan, who said, yeah, of course we'll lower our emissions, give us $100 billion. So can the Liberal Party... Well, two questions. Why haven't they seen sense and seen the way forward? Secondly, can they actually go, yep, This is how we defeat Labor. This is how we win that election and bring the whole army of Australians whose number one priority is cheap energy prices, and only 1 in 4 give a rat's about climate change.
Yes.
Can they do it, the Liberal Party?
Okay, this is how I see it. I believe there is a man-eating bunyip lurking in the woods around Canberra. This man-eating bunyip only likes to dine out on the flesh of the parliamentary leader of the Labor Party or the Liberal Party. Now, the name of this man-eating bunyip is global warming policy, and Scott Morrison, I'm sorry, he's still on the loose.
He's on the loose, the bunyip's out there, Scott.
He keeps eating up people in your position, Scott Morrison. So let's try and break the pattern, Scott. And the answer, of course, with global warming policy is this: the government should get out of it. Now, if people who believe in global warming want to reduce emissions, if they are right, they should not be focused their energy on trying to manipulate government policy. They should be saying to the public, convince the majority of the public that it's the right thing, and then the public and then energy providers can say, look, you believe in global warming, use us because we only use renewable energy. Yes, I have to pay a higher price, but it should be persuading the people, not through lobbyists manipulating government policy.
Absolutely, here, and what a revolution that would be in this country, and it would be the free market at work rather than this endless government intervention. And no one must know more than Josh Ross.
Yes.
That you can't reconcile the irreconcilable.
Well, look, I would not want to put it to Josh and to Scott. At the early days of Hong Kong, the establishment of Hong Kong, there was this massive influx of Chinese from the mainland into Hong Kong. And because it was going to be this new liberty, and they were all just spread all over the city, like tens of thousands of them were sleeping in shanties. And the message came back from the Home Office in London, well, to the Hong Kong administrator, well, you must do something, but you must have a policy to settle these homeless. And the administrator of Hong Kong looked at it and said, you know what, my policy is going to be, I've got no policy. I'll let you guys figure this out, okay? And the truth is, if we had never had an energy policy, we would have a much better result.
Absolutely.
Indeed, if we had never had an education policy, we would not be slipping further. If we never had
Kazakhstan would have
NBN policy, we would have a better communications network. My advice to Scott and Josh is stay out of it.
Now, we're going to go to a break in a second, but first of all, I think in the interest of fairness, we've been a bit harsh earlier, so I think in the interest of fairness, I'd like to list Malcolm Turnbull's achievements during his time in... hang on. Sure I got it here somewhere. We're going to a short break, and we will be back in a tick.
Yeah, and the mark of fake Christians is hypocrisy. Notice they just said no one should be lobbying government to take action on climate change. People who believe in climate change should be out convincing the people, not lobbying the government. And yet it is the fossil fuel industry that is lobbying Australian politicians, corruptible politicians, fake Christian politicians, to enact policy that goes against the interests of everybody by not reducing greenhouse gas emissions. That is a fact. There is a lot of money being thrown at politicians behind the scenes by the fossil fuel industry and by powerful people in the media, including Rupert Murdoch, who owns this news channel. And it's basically Rupert Murdoch's opinion that most Australians hear when they turn on their news. If it happens to be Sky News, that's what they're actually getting, is the opinion of Rupert Murdoch. So, hypocrisy. Iraq War, think back to John Howard, Australian political royalty, liberal royalty. The Iraq War was based on lies, and it's the same lies that you're hearing now about climate change being a myth. Climate change is definitely not a myth. It's happening, it's serious, and it's killing people.